I will be talking about artist Loie Hollowell for my contemporary artist presentation. She has been an artist from a young age. Both of her parents were artists, and they set her up at the age of 7 to 8 years old in a little closet type studio that was in between their two studios that really kicked off her kind of art journey and made her feel like she had her own special space to herself in between her parents to create her own work. Loie Hollowell was born in 1983 in Woodland, California. She currently lives in New York City. Her main themes surrounding her art include sexuality, sensuality, sensitive topics such as abortion, pregnancy, strong emotions that she's experienced, birth, pain, pleasure, and represents them in an abstract way through bodily representation. She uses intense bright colors, geometric forms, shapes, and high contrast between dark and light. Additionally, she uses these protruding shapes from the kind of blend of painting and sculpture that she does to play on light. So she uses the color and contrast to create artificial light and shadows, but then she also has protruding forms that create their own shadow and light forms. So her preferred style and medium is oil paint, acrylic paint, high density foam, and sawdust on linen covered panels and canvas to create raised sculpture like forms. So she's blending painting with sculpture to have this sort of three-dimensional shapes on the canvas that's kind of 3D coming out at you. So Loie Hollowell uses this high density foam and adheres it onto a linen covered canvas before she applies an oil paint or an acrylic paint to it. So she even uses her hands to like go over the surface to make sure it's perfectly smooth before applying paints so that it doesn't bring attention to any imperfections. She wants to make sure those are all smooth before she's painting it. And this technique creates this 3D like protruding surface that is sticking out at the viewer, and that really interacts with the light purposely. She purposely wants it to interact with the light and shadows in different locations that it's placed. So if it's placed somewhere with lots of light, there's going to be less shadow versus something with kind of low lighting or directional lighting that's going to create more shadow. So she uses the high intensity contrast between light and dark to create artificial shadows, but she likes to use the protruding surface to create real life shadows as well in her art. Um, Frequently, her work is more abstract and it really represents reproductive anatomy, geometric shapes, and inspired by her own life experiences. So the artist explained that she experienced really, really strong emotions surrounding some sensitive things that happened, like abortion and pregnancy. And she uses the space, the bold, bright, and intense colors with the light and dark contrast to express what she calls indescribable subject matter or complex subject matter that is really just difficult to convey these really strong emotions. So she uses these really strong geometric shapes and these really, really intense colors to convey this emotion in her art. She did say that she was inspired by light and space artist Robert Irwin, not to be confused with Steve Irwin's son, who is also a photographer. I thought it was the same. It's not. Different guy, who uses pure light, she says, pure space, and expresses pure emotion. The artist subject is the artist herself, really. She's using her own experiences and journey through these like deeply personal emotions that she felt during sensitive times in her life, such as abortion and then later pregnancies and birth and pain versus pleasure. Those are really, the subject is raw emotions that are complex to explain or capture. So that's why she's using these really like strong colors and shapes and spaces and light and dark contrast to really try to capture this inexplainable feelings that she felt. As far as using herself as a subject, she quite literally is using herself. She was taking casts and moldings of her own pregnant belly and body to use in some of these art sculptures that are protruding out in 3D form. So her subject is raw emotion, complex, hard to capture and explain. The female form, the pregnant female form specifically, reproductive anatomy, as well as inspiration from other women's bodies as well. In some of her later work, she did cast other women's bodies and used other women that were pregnant or using their bellies or their breasts in different art that she's created. So this example of Hollowell's art was created in 2022. It's titled Belly, Breast, Face, Brain, Milk Ducts, Placenta. And you can really see all of those different things represented here. The materials are oil, acrylic medium, aqua resin, epoxy resin on linen over panel. And this really shows where she's representing the pregnant life form, body representation, specifically growing life and the life that the female body provides. So this painting is really cool. The vibrancy of this painting is kind of lost when you shrink it down onto this slide, but the white milk that she is portraying here is just really bright, aside from the, of course, focal point in the middle where she's really drawing your eye with that really bright light color with the dark contrast on either side with this great symmetry. The title is 14 Saints and it was created in 2021. The material is oil, acrylic medium, and epoxy resin on linen over panel. And this is really to represent dilation of birth, lactation, and this body representation that, you know, the female form creates and gives life. So this is titled Milk Spring, and it was created in the year 2021. The materials are oil, acrylic, and epoxy resin on linen over panel. And we're on these same ideas and themes of pregnancy, life, bodily representation, and specifically the power of bringing life into the world and sustaining it with your body through lactation. So the artist told a story about a memory of her mother when she had had another child, her sibling, I assume, and she had witnessed her mom have was outside of the car pumping gas, and the baby was crying inside of the car, and the mom had like a dramatic letdown where her shirt started soaking with milk, and that like left a core memory on the artist. And that's something that she depicts a lot in her paintings, is this kind of breast leaking milk, this lactation, and she feels really strongly about the power and the life that is given through the female body. I think this relates to contemporary art because the artist's work is reflecting the current world around her, especially since she's able to express herself in this era, this openly about her own sexuality and body and expression that way. Her art represents an abstract reflection of her deeply emotional experiences, and she's conveying this idea with her viewers. She is communicating her truth, her ideas, her own identity through her art. So I'm mostly throwing this in here because I noticed when I was looking at her art that it really reminded me of historical American modern artist Georgia O'Keeffe, and her flowers that also kind of represented the female form, even though she vehemently denied that it was anything to do with the female reproductive anatomy. But they really do look very similar in the way that they're painted and the light and dark contrast that was used. However, Loie Hollowell unapologetically represents sexuality, the female form, and reproductive organs in her art. She absolutely proudly proclaims that she does, whereas Georgia O'Keeffe denied, as far as I know, till the day she died, that she had anything to do with female anatomy and that they were just flowers. So I think the topics are pretty obvious that Loie explores ideas of sexuality, the female form, the pregnant female form, these deep, strong emotions of pain and birth and loss. And some of her art even symbolizes her previous abortion that she had and how that deeply emotionally affected her. But she really unapologetically represents sexuality, the female form, and genitalia.